As the Civil War raged through the summer and fall of 1862, the conflict's focus extended into the border states, where allegiances were split and strategic importance was paramount. Kentucky, with its rivers, railroads, and agricultural resources, became a key battleground. The Confederate invasion of the state, led by General Braxton Bragg, set the stage for the pivotal Battle of Perryville, a fierce clash that would determine control of Kentucky and shape the war's western theater. The fighting at Perryville would also highlight the personal and strategic stakes for soldiers and leaders on both sides, as well as the devastating toll of war on divided communities. In the summer of 1862, Confederate leaders devised an ambitious plan to shift the war's momentum in the West. General Braxton Bragg's Army of Mississippi and General Edmund Kirby Smith's Army of Kentucky launched a coordinated invasion to secure Kentucky for the Confederacy. Bragg's goal was not only to gain a strategic foothold, but also to sway Kentucky's divided population toward the Southern cause. The Confederacy hoped that a successful campaign would bring Kentucky's resources and manpower to their side, significantly strengthening the Southern war effort. Initially, the plan seemed to succeed. Confederate forces advanced deep into Kentucky, capturing towns and supply depots while encountering relatively little resistance. Bragg's forces occupied key towns such as Frankfort and Lexington, and Confederate leaders even briefly installed a Confederate governor in Kentucky's capital. The campaign's early successes boosted Southern morale, and Bragg's confidence in securing the state grew. By October, Bragg's army had reached Perryville, a small town in central Kentucky. However, the Union Army of the Ohio, commanded by Major General Don Carlos Buell, was in pursuit, determined to challenge the Confederate advance. On October 8, 1862, the two armies converged near Perryville. Bragg's forces, numbering about 16,000, were spread thin across the region as they searched for supplies. Meanwhile, Buell's army, with over 55,000 troops, was concentrated nearby, but unaware of the Confederate Army's exact location due to poor communication and confusion caused by a severe drought. The drought had dried up local water sources, forcing both sides to fight over access to streams and wells, which added an element of desperation to the engagement. The battle began almost by accident. Early skirmishes erupted as Union troops clashed with Confederate forces near Doctors Creek, a critical water source. These initial engagements escalated rapidly, drawing in more troops as commanders realized the strategic importance of the area. By midday, Bragg realized he was facing a much larger Union force than anticipated. Undeterred, he ordered his outnumbered troops to attack, hoping to exploit the Union's scattered formations and gain a tactical advantage. The Confederate assault was ferocious. Bragg's men launched a series of coordinated attacks against the Union's left flank, initially driving Buell's forces back. The rolling hills and dry creek beds of Perryville became a chaotic battleground as soldiers fought in close quarters under the scorching sun. Artillery fire echoed across the countryside, and clouds of gunpowder smoke obscured the battlefield, making communication and coordination difficult for both sides. Despite their numerical disadvantage, the Confederates made significant gains early in the battle, capturing Union positions and inflicting heavy casualties. Confederate infantry charged with determination, while their artillery delivered punishing volleys that disrupted Union formations. Some Union units were forced to retreat in disarray, further emboldening the Confederate troops. However, as the day wore on, Buell's reinforcements began to arrive. The Union's superior numbers and fresh troops gradually turned the tide. With each passing hour, the Union's lines stabilized and began to push back against the Confederate advance. By evening, the Confederate assault had lost momentum, and Bragg faced the grim reality that his army could not hold its ground against the growing Union force. As darkness fell, Bragg ordered his army to withdraw from Perryville. The battle had been fiercely contested, with both sides suffering heavy casualties, around 4,200 Union and 3,400 Confederate. The battlefield was littered with the dead and wounded, a grim testament to the ferocity of the fighting. While tactically inconclusive, the battle was a strategic victory for the Union. Bragg's retreat marked the end of the Confederate campaign in Kentucky, dashing Southern hopes of securing the state and its resources. The Union's control of Kentucky ensured continued access to vital rivers and railroads, bolstering their efforts in the Western Theater. For the Confederacy, the failure of the Kentucky campaign was a bitter disappointment, highlighting the challenges of sustaining long campaigns far from their base of operations. The retreat also dealt a blow to Confederate morale, as it underscored the limitations of their strategic ambitions in the West. The Battle of Perryville underscored the complexity of the Civil War in border states like Kentucky. Families and communities were often torn apart by divided loyalties, with neighbors and even relatives fighting on opposite sides. The state's strategic importance made it a constant focus of military campaigns, and the struggle for control often brought destruction and suffering to its people. For the soldiers who fought at Perryville, the battle was a harrowing reminder of the war's brutality. The drought, the intense fighting, and the high casualties left scars on those who survived. Accounts from soldiers on both sides described the confusion and terror of the battle, as well as the physical and emotional toll it took on the men in the ranks. Yet, for the Union, Perryville represented progress in their broader strategy to divide and conquer the Confederacy by dominating the Western Theater. The legacy of Perryville resonates as an example of how even battles without a clear winner could shape the course of the Civil War. It demonstrated the high stakes of the conflict and the immense challenges faced by both sides as they struggled for control of critical regions. In the next episode, we will turn to the Eastern Theater, where the Union and Confederacy clashed at Fredericksburg in one of the war's most lopsided and tragic battles.